In this lesson, we'll cover project information. Revit projects have a variety of information and settings that we can manage. To view and manage these settings, let's go to the Manage tab on the ribbon. Now on this tab, there's a variety of different panels, and on those panels, a lot of different icons. Some of these functional areas we'll start with on the left are settings. So the first icon in the settings panel is materials. Materials are these materials loaded into Revit to be assigned to different elements, walls, doors, windows, and it has a variety of different settings, graphics, appearances, physical attributes, and thermal attributes. This information is used when we do a lot of analysis on our actual Revit models. To the right of materials is an option called Object Styles. Object Styles is where we can set a variety of things for models, let's say, for object lines, densities, color, line pattern. You can also look at annotation objects, their line weight, their line color, and line pattern. Same thing with analytical features, and the same thing for imported objects. Go ahead and click OK. The icon below that is Snaps. Snaps is where we can actually set our snap interval. Very similar to object snaps in AutoCAD. Here we can set our angular snaps, our linear snaps, and how do we want to treat snap conditions, meaning where we snap to. You also notice the shortcut keys listed in parentheses. Go ahead and click OK. Below snaps, we have project information. Now, project information has a variety of different things relating to different parts of Revit. Go ahead and click project information. Here we can see you have organization name, description, building author, and at the very bottom, the project status, the client name, the address, name, and number. To the right of project address, if you were to click edit, you actually see you can enter in the address. If you go up to the right of energy settings and click edit, this is where you can set the variety of settings used in an energy analysis. One thing to note would be settings that we may want to use that may be derived from the Revit Architects model or the Revit Architects project. That has to do with a variety of wall types, door types, floor types, and other building elements. So as you scroll through the list, you see a variety of things you can actually set. But regarding the construction of the building and the elements coming from the architect, and if they're set or linked, we can actually verify this and look at this in the option for building construction. So to the right of building construction, where it says building, simply click on building, and then to the very right, a button will appear with 3 dots. That's called the ellipse button. Go ahead and click that. This will open up default construction types for each one of these categories. Now I can see there's an override because I'm overriding what's linked from actually the Revit Architects project. But each one of these, if you were to click in the drop-down, you have a variety of standard materials that could be used for each of these elements. Now we'll speak more on this in another lesson, but just pointing it now, this is where this would be configured, specifically for the energy analysis. Go ahead and click OK, and OK again, and OK one more time. Now other icons for various settings. Project parameters, if you were keeping track of project parameters. Project units. Units for what we're actually using, measuring in, dimensioning in, looking at our different volumes, slopes, currency, density, and a drop-down list on the top too to look at specific settings by trade. Go ahead and click OK. Other settings are shared parameters, specific parameters that can be shared back and forth between linked files. You have a Transfer Project Standards button, meaning all of these standards and settings we're looking at could be transferred in from another Revit project. You have Purged Unused. Now this is actually a very powerful command that you may want to use after you're done with your actual Revit project or at various intervals. Basically what it does is it removes elements or components that you're not using, therefore making the Revit project file smaller. To the right of that, we have a variety of settings for our different disciplines. Structural settings, and below that in the drop-down, settings for mechanical, electrical, and various other settings for load classifications, demand factors, and building and space type settings. Below that, we have schedule settings. and the ability to manage our schedule templates. To the right of that are our standards for our Revit project. Everything from our fill patterns, hatch patterns, to actually line types, line weights, to our callout symbols, arrowheads, and dimension types. To the right of that are our project information settings, such as project location. This is where we can set the actual location by city and state or longitude and latitude, and we can even set the weather conditions, coordinates of how the coordinate systems will be managed, and also the position of where we're actually placing this on a site. To the right of that are our design options. We have different options of our layout, layout A or layout B within the space. Manage links is what we kind of looked at in another lesson about how we can manage a linked Revit project, such as an architect's Revit project. And the icons to the right of that are for managing images, managing decals, and what view, if you want a view, that you would like to start first when anyone opens this Revit project. Now, by default, it says the last view looked at, or you could specifically say, I want you to open this view upon opening this Revit project. I'm going to cancel that. And lastly, you have project phases. Phases being, if we're looking at this from a timeline perspective, we're looking at what's existing, or is there new construction, or is there demolition? And then you have phase filters based on these different phases and what to display or not to display regarding graphic overrides for each of these elements. Go ahead and click OK. So in this lesson, we looked at various project settings and project information, ranging from materials to project location to energy settings, and settings carried down from our actual linked project, meaning the architect's project, and our actual CAD standard settings, line types, line weights, dimension styles, arrowheads, and also different elements as far as what's being managed. The Revit file itself, meaning the architect's file as far as it being managed in its length, decals, other images, and finally, project phases.